Well, thank you very much, Francis. Now, the policy requiring international minors travelling to South Africa with their parents to present unabridged certificates has been scrapped. Now, Home Affairs signed a waiver that now allows foreign children to enter the country without carrying additional supporting documents. Now, the old rules dating back to former Minister Malusi Gigaba required all those travelling with minors to produce birth certificates and consent letters, and were an apparent attempt to curb child trafficking. But the policy apparently did more harm than good. Let's chat now to the Tourism Minister, Mmamoloko, Kubayi-Ngubane. Minister, very good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us indeed. It was a very unpopular policy, and I think you must welcome it now, in particular as we head to the festive season.
Indeed, good evening, Griselda, and to the viewers at home. We are excited as a sector for this announcement by Minister Motsoaledi. We've been working hard together. Since I've been on the portfolio, we've really had several engagement with the sector and also with the Home Affairs to look at ways of responding to what the sector have raised with us. So we are excited, and we're hoping that we are in time for those who have not finalized their travel, that they will be able to come to South Africa as a destination.
Some would have said it could have been seen as an own goal because South Africa was not being seen as a family-friendly destination.
I think this is incidences where you say it's a policy that had unintended consequences.
Right.
So the intention could have been good to say we have worldwide issues of trafficking, therefore let's deal with it. And the colleagues from the security cluster would have looked at it from a security point of view. Now we come obviously from an economic point of view to say when you do this, there's economic impact, that you are closing out tourists, you are closing out families to come through. So always it's now good, we've learned out of those lessons that you have to always find a balance, the interest in terms of economically and also the security-wise.
I recall when the story broke about this being scrapped, many were asking whether the proper communication has been put out there so that, for example, your immigration officials understand what now needs to happen. I understand you've also had a number of meetings with some in the sector to ensure that there is no confusion about what needs to happen going forward. Talk to us a bit about that.
Okay, yes, what we did, we agreed with Minister Motsoaledi that when the regulation is issued, he will issue the letter to myself as Minister of Tourism that I can circulate within the tourism stakeholders. He issued a letter to TBCSA, which is a Tourism Business Council South Africa, so that we can be able to send across. So those regulations have been sent to all the stakeholders. We've been engaging various stakeholders, obviously, in different engagements. The as you're saying, BASA, which is responsible for airlines, we've engaged with them. They've received the regulations as well. So all the sector, they've been raising, they are welcoming this. They've been looking forward. Actually, even we saw a tweet from the UNWTO congratulating us as South Africa to say, well done, and also the Secretary General of UNWTO to say, indeed, a step in the right direction.
How do we make up for the lost ground, though? I understand, possibly millions could have been lost in terms of competitors, who would have otherwise seen elsewhere as a better family destination than South Africa because of those regulations. How do we then continue to get that message out that South Africa is that destination? We need that tourism as well, and that the regulations themselves are properly communicated outside of the negotiations or the talks that you've had with the individuals you've just mentioned?
Look, the regulations, once you send it to the international bodies, they are able to put them for them. For example, IATA is able to put it up on their website. The travel agents are able to put it up because they would not make it as a requirement. So the ports of entries as well, they've received communication from their own minister saying this is what we've made sure that as this communication comes, we circulate it broadly. In terms of making up for what we have lost, because we shouldn't be naive to say or lie that we didn't lose the numbers. We did lose the numbers out of this travel, out of this regulation, and therefore part of what we are doing is aggressive marketing. As we market and communicate to make sure that we bring the numbers, we'll be able to continue to communicate. We are utilizing all our partners. We are utilizing utilizing all the stakeholders that we have. As the Department of Tourism, together with South African Tourism, we have hub heads across the world in terms of who are representing us in various markets. We send them this to say, please make sure that this is known in the markets that you are. We've also requested that this be sent to the missions, which Minister has done. Minister Motsoaledi has sent it to our missions abroad, where people are applying for visas. So they will have this as well as part of the documents that they can carry to say we don't need this. So we've made sure this time that we're communicating as broad as possible.
But why did it take so long, though, Minister? I mean, it was a clear indication there'd been massive calls for the scrapping of this particular policy. I recall at the time what seemed to have been, I would not want to drag you into it, what seemed to have been a spat between the then Tourism Minister and the then Home Affairs Minister. Why did it take so long to reverse what clearly was not working? And now it sort of seems like there's some sort of damage control that needs to happen. Now we have to re-invite a tourist back into our country.
I think we've got to be quite honest and say, Griselda, the colleagues in the, as I said earlier on, the colleagues in the security cluster had a good intention. Globally, there's concerns around trafficking. And therefore, from a security point of view, they would look at it to say, how do we curb it? And that's why you'd have something like this coming through. And that's why when you go back, we have to put a compelling case as the tourism department to say, this is what you need to do. So changing of a regulation, changing of laws is not an overnight thing. Obviously, even when I got into the portfolio, for example, we agreed with Minister Motsoaledi, this needs to be done. But the procedure through it, because it must go through the board that looks at it, say this is what they agree with. From there, you need state law advisors or legal people to look at it and make sure that they close the gap from our own legal point of view. So that as government, we are not seen as negligent, not following our own laws that we've been able to promulgate. So there's those things that I had to do. It's unfortunate, but we are happy. And what I've interacted, and as I say, that we've had interaction with the various sectors, they are excited, and that's why they've issued statement to welcome this development.
So how do we then also deal with the other aspects? While this is welcomed, and I'm sure a tourist who would be wanting to come to South Africa would of course welcome it as well. But there are also negative aspects to that. The intention, of course, was to deal with issues including child trafficking, human trafficking. How do we then balance between inviting people to South Africa and also ensuring that we do not get ourselves into a situation where it is seen as a loophole as well for those who would want to be involved in those underhanded activities?
Look, the issue from our side is to say, we, from the tourism point of view, obviously we're looking at the economic benefit. Hence, I'm saying there always have to be a balance. Look at the countries. That's why when we request, for example, would request so many countries for, like, from a tourism point of view, I would request all the floodgates to be opened, all the gates to be open for everybody to come without requiring visa. So, because I'm looking at the numbers, driving the numbers, making sure that people are able to come. And the security cluster will say, no, but these are the issues. These are the system that we are requesting in terms of the requirements and all those things. That's why we still have countries that requires to come here with a visa. That's why we still have countries that require certain documents and all those things. And people are still being screened, because that has not been left. I know the people who are from the social clusters who will be worried about the children and everything will continue to say we want to make sure that we don't end up being a hub. Those are still being screened. That's why when you apply for a visa, you'll be screened. If you are not, and then they flag you, then you'll go for an interview, they do the assessment. Those things are still in place. But from a tourism point of view, we are excited that we are able to invite families, because we've got destinations that are very good for family holidays.
Would you say it was a blunder?
Pardon?
Would you say it was a blunder?
That's what I'm saying. It's a policy that had good intentions, but ended up with unintended consequences.
But I mean a blunder, because obviously your department obviously had suffered as a result of the numbers coming into South Africa.
I think there are lessons learned, Griselda. That's how we can put it. There, every time when you do something, you would have lessons learned. It was not anticipated to be that way, and we have learned out of that. And that's why we're making sure that going forward, we are able to learn from other countries when we put legislation, when we put regulations, so that we can be globally competitive. And we are utilizing the experience that we have, both from us as the department and the the sector to assist from government point of view.
So you can definitely give some assurance to those who are coming to South Africa that all is set, communication is there, you will not have any challenges.
Definitely, we've communicated broadly. We are not expecting no challenges.
Right.
Minister Motsoaledi has signed it to me. We've circulated to the airlines, we've circulated to the travel agents, so everybody has that regulation. And we've communicated, the statement has gone, we've put it as well, we've requested even the UNWTO, which is the UN World Tourism Organization, to assist us in carrying the message. So we believe that the message has been carried as broad as enough for everybody to come freely to South Africa, and we are hoping we catch in the traffic for festive so that they can contribute to the job and to our economy.
Well, let's hope we see those millions flocking to South Africa, in particular during the festive season. Thank you very much indeed for your time. The Tourism Minister, Mmamoloko Kubayi-Ngubane, on the Home Affairs decision, of course, on the scrapping of the policy requirement, international minors travelling to South Africa with their parents to present those unabridged